Are you hitting the button? Oh, there he is. All right. I guess Taylor's hitting the button. Here we are. Episode 76, a very special live episode following week 1 of NFL football action. As in with football, we called an audible today. The plan was 2 p.m. Monday. We run the play. We run the episode. We're normally 2-3 weeks out. We bank them. We release them. However, we got an email about 1:45 today from our guest saying not going to make it. And I did my first ever live like a half hour ago on StreamYard. And so we've historically used Riverside, shout out Riverside, for our podcast. And now we're like, screw it. Let's run the live play. Because as we know, with the great Green Bay football Packers and Jordan Love, the future Hall of Famer, Jordan Love, right? Sometimes you got to run audibles. Sometimes you drop the ball on the snap and you still throw it for 37 yards to your rookie tight end. No big deal. Here we are, episode 76. I'm Andy Weins. He's Casey Bubba Lawrence. Casey, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, I mean, I think first we can talk about the inevitable. So we won't say who our guest was, but unfortunately they're closing their business down. That's what it looks like. And that sucks to hear. It does. Yep. Being on our side, we would love to dive into the reasons, obviously, to dissect it, but that's not everyone's business. We understand the discretion there, but it's very interesting because unfortunately it's one of very many that we're seeing right now. So I don't know, maybe we can touch on that, but I do want to say this before we forget. The Dallas Cowboys pretty much made a statement last night. I mean,
to be fair, I watched the first half.
The New York Giants.
The Giants,
New York Giants, they fucked around.
They did not help.
And then they found out,
They found out. See, earlier today, I called Casey at Casey and I were texting earlier today, and I called him, and I was like, "Hey, man, I'm doing this new thing. I'm live. We should do one live episode today, like 15 minutes, and talk football. That way, so we did get one of our first reviews we ever got. The first complaint was, love their shit, but why do they have to talk about football? And here's the deal. It's the Trash Talk Business Podcast, where there is trash, and then there's also occasionally business, right? And there's talk. That's the whole point behind what we do here. And to be fair, right, when you're a business owner, you don't get a lot of water cooler talk. Like when I come into work, I'm not like, hey, guys, let's stand around and bullshit how our weekend was. No, we are very much in pure business mode, So even we have our group text between myself and the president of our company and the two other leaders. And I was talking business stuff, and it was in the middle of the Packer game yesterday because I was still thinking about work and doing work stuff. And I'll put in there a go pack go. Because, Sundays for me growing up is football. And to this day, like I like a lazy football Sunday. Also, Casey, hot take. You did not know this. Unofficial sponsor, other than Salty Crew, unofficial sponsor of yesterday's Green Bay football Packers whooping on the Bears. Spitfires on State, best wings in Milwaukee. Carolyn has been asking me about getting good wings, and we went and got wings before the Packer game. I went with the garlic hot, the blue buffalo, which is blue cheese and buffalo, and the Bayou rub, which is a Cajun dry rub. Spectacular. 18 wings, chai fries, happy. She went with the Asian sensation. She has a thing for Asians, apparently. And also the honeybee, which is their hottest sauce. I gotta move. I was like moving out of frame, and then I moved farther out of frame because apparently my brain doesn't work that way. And then the killer bee, which is the hottest. It's the hottest with honey, whatever. It's in the hottest category because she don't play. Casey, for those of you guys pay attention at home, first of all, Casey, what is Casey, like 6'4", 250? Like you're a full size man, right? 6'2".
I'm a grown man. Yes,
he's a grown man.
6'2", 240.
240. Okay, 6'2", 240. Let me tell you something about Casey.
Yeah.
First of all, he doesn't eat wings. He only eats chicken nugget, boneless wings, because he doesn't want to get the sauce in his beard. And second of all, from a man from Texas, doesn't like the heat. He goes with the blueberry barbecue, right? Third thing, and Carolyn reminded me of this, right? You think Casey's like a Lone Star drinking, Jack Daniels shooting kind of guy. No. Passion fruit margaritas from the Cheesecake Factory. That is, if you want to belly up to the bar with Casey, you're getting boneless chicken nuggets and passion fruit margaritas. That's the juxtaposition is amazing.
That's just how it is, man. And the biggest thing is that blueberry barbecue sauce had a little spice to it. But yeah, man, honestly, I mean, I could probably venture into the bone-in wings now because I cut my beard off. But I mean, why? There's more meat without the bone. You know?
Absolutely. All right, so let's talk now that we've go Pack go. How about them Cowboys? Right now we are 5.5 minutes into this. Football season has kicked off, and both of our teams did well against their respective opponents. All right, Taylor, our producer, asked if Casey's going to do a food review show. The amount of lunches Casey goes to, I'm jealous. I got the best. You come out with me, I get the best lunch in Milwaukee. However, Casey knows all the best lunch places in DFW. I've gone out.
Well, all right, it's also Texas. I mean, so I'll tell you this real quick.
Yeah.
The other day, I think it was like Thursday or Friday, I had a double whammy. I had grade A barbecue for lunch, followed by grade A- barbecue for dinner.
Yeah, and man, at best I can get C+ work over here.
It was like
I love barbecue.
Almost too much. It really was, but it was amazing. It's still amazing.
I haven't been to Texas this year. I haven't.
I know, you need to come down here.
I do need to go just to eat and for another reason. All right, so let's talk about now that let's get into the meat and potatoes with respect to our audience. We've never had a guest that talked about a failed business or a closed business, and you and I both closed businesses before. You exited and sold a business. You closed down your demo business. You had a great. I will give you a shout out. You did have a great post this last week on Facebook. Now that you're getting into a new endeavor, which is commercial real estate, which is not new to me or even our audience because you've talked about it on the podcast. Yeah. However, you did close on your first storage unit property on Friday. Congratulations. And moreover, as your friend and co-host here, you put yourself out there on Facebook and you were vulnerable about what it took to get there. I put up a post the other day that was like, it takes 10 years of work to have success. And then someone commented that they were at an event on Friday and the keynote speaker said it took 30 years for her to become an overnight success. And that's right. Like that's the truth of business. And I would say, I do make comments about our former franchise and how many of their locations have failed. And a lot of times it's a shot at the franchisor. However, businesses fail every day.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that, right? Maybe that's not the most sexiest topic or most uplifting topic. However,
that's why you need to talk about it, though.
That's why we need to talk about it. So I want to dive into you first, right? What was it like? Talk about that transitional period because it was very right. So you did the junk mold thing for 4 or 5 years with the franchisor. You sold. I want you to talk about from that point till Friday when you bought your storage unit. Let's talk about the trials and tribulations you had.
Okay. And this is what's crazy. So I'm going to preface this by saying you always need time to reset and you need boundaries. Without those two things in life, I promise you will implode. You will self-implode.
Yep.
So, I did the junk removal thing. And in the 6th year we were in business, we sold. I stayed on an extra 100 days just to help the new owners take over the business, acclimate to the area and the actual business itself. Meanwhile, I was, planning on maybe getting into demolition afterwards. And then, out of the blue, I get this project that pops up with you, right? Yep. For the McDonald's job. That's all we call it, man, because it's pretty much what it was. Yeah. And the cool thing was at the time for me, it was great transition because I was like, oh, I can leave one thing for another and not have to worry about money because I'm going to be getting paid for this project. And it was a pretty good pay, but it was a whole lot of work. And, it was a 7-week job, 7 different states. That was just a shit show, but it was awesome. And then I came home and I remember I had like a week and then we had our first demolition down here. As Demo Works. And after that, it was Thanksgiving. And the next thing you know it, I'm hungry for work because I decided to start a new business in the later part of November. For some reason, that's a smart idea. at the same time, my wife and I just bought our house, just moved in an hour away from where we were actually used to being at. So there's a lot of factors that were just kind of there that I didn't realize it yet. So that next year was a lot of grind. It was a lot of just go, 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 make money so we could support ourselves. Obviously, we had enough money to survive, about 6 to 7 months. I recommend everyone out there try to at least have that much money as your safety net when you are thinking about transitioning into some other industry or whatever. That way you don't have to worry about going out there and honestly killing yourself just for that payment for the bills, right? Anyways, so for that whole year, all I did was work, and most of my jobs were 2 hours away. They weren't even close. Yeah, they're big demolition jobs, but they were far, so I was gone all day. Just work, work, work. Then I started to realize if I wanted to grow this company and if I wanted to actually be successful, I had to put more money in and more time in. So I had to decide which one do I want to do. And I didn't want to do either. I was looking at getting a loan just to get a truck, trailer, and a piece of equipment. But that loan was going to be about $300K. And that's just to keep going. That wasn't even to really set myself up. So I ended up not doing that. My wife and I had a long talk. We decided the best thing probably would be for me to just shut it down, right? I was fine with it. It wasn't all that I thought it was going to be. And I realized, hey, if I shut it down now, I'm not out any money. I could probably get out unscathed. I mean, yeah, it sucks, but at least there's no deep cuts. So we did that. And then we sold our house, moved back in to the area that we had business in. And I had time now, right? We traded money for time. So that's when I really started thinking, like, hey, what can I do with all this time? A lot of us are saying, hey, I'll give my time to make money, but we just found a way to give our money to make time. As you see, my little one running around crazy. But anyways, so that was a key element, man. Like before, we're used to that rat race, right? We're used to that hamster wheel of give up all my time to make a buck. But I found this opportunity to reverse it. And I was like, oh, it's that simple. Just give my money up for time, which with more time, you can get more money.
Mm-hmm.
So, I joined my wife with her business a little bit, helped her grow it in March of this year. And so far, she's quadrupled her business since last year. I also started really diving deeper into commercial real estate, which is something I've been interested for a while. And it got to the point where I learned if you learn and if you don't stop learning, I promise you there will be a point in time where you can use all that knowledge and it will show. At first, it may not seem like it because for me, it just, dude, I hit a roadblock every corner. It would be like, oh, this is a good deal. Never mind. No, it's not. Oh, this is a good deal. Never mind. No, it's not. I even had a buddy present to me a great investment opportunity in this awesome software company that he was building. He showed me everything. It looked amazing. The risk was the same as any real estate deal. Worst case scenario, you lose money.
Mm-hmm.
The reward, though, was phenomenally greater. So I decided, yeah, sure. I took a gamble. This is why I don't like when people say gamble, but I took a gamble on him and I gave him $40,000. 3 months later, it was all gone. The entire chunk of it. I started realizing more and more that it was a bad deal. He was a very good scam artist, great salesman. And he took advantage of me. Cool. But I moved on. I kept fighting forward. I kept saying, you know what? Just get smarter, learn from that, whatever. And then I realized there's a difference between gambling and playing the actual game, right? Just like poker. Those people you see on TV that are winning $1 million pots, they're not gambling.
Mm-hmm.
They're not. They're playing a game that they've trained for year after year after year. That's what they're doing. That's their profession. And I got to the point where now I could read a deal a little bit better. I could read an actual financial statement better, get to understand it to more where I'm like, okay, if I put $1 here, where's the dollar go? And then to wrap it all up, yeah, last week I was fortunate enough, my business partner and I, we closed on our first self-storage deal that him and I own, not a syndication that who knows who's making what decisions. So it was a really cool thing. And we're actually scheduled to close another deal by this Friday. Another self-storage, a bigger deal. This will be a 7-figure property, so that's cool. But that just tells us we have more to learn. We have more to do to keep it going. We have a goal, and I just saw it, but that's my goal, 25 mil, right? That's my goal. I want to have 25 million under management in the next, 360 days. So for me, I have to keep learning and keep driving forward. Now, having said that, what did it take out of me? It took 2.5 years, one business to close, right? And a shit ton of learning and a shit ton of talking to other people who are well-versed, I guess more well-versed than I am and more experienced than I am. And I don't know if they're more successful, because that's relative, but more successful in this industry than I am. That's what it took. And now
when did you, when was it, or what was the moment when you knew that Worx, you said you had a long conversation with your wife, but when, what, right? Because I've closed businesses also, and there's people that are out there struggling, potentially going to lose their houses or their mortgage or their sanity, whatever, right?
Yeah.
What, what was that moment like, or what were you, what was the aha moment you had where you're like, all right, I'm pulling this way?
I was in Florida visiting my mom, family vacation, had the kids, my wife, all at her house. And I was stressed the entire time. I wasn't having fun. I was an asshole. No one wanted to be around me. And I was like, why am I not enjoying my time? And it's because I had this small job. It's always the small ones too. It was one of my smallest demos. It was like a $7,000, maybe $8,000 job that was still going on back home. It had been delayed. There was way more concrete underneath the ground that was projected to be. So my cost was rising. It was one of those jobs where things just kept going wrong. But now I wasn't there to take care of things. And now I was dealing with a client who was very upset, blah, blah, blah. And at that point, I realized we're not going to be where we want to be at this pace, because as much as I want to work from wherever, it's clear that I have to be there right now if I want to keep doing this. So when we were talking, we just built our dream home, dude. Like, you saw our house. It was nice, beautiful.
Yeah.
Just built it. And I told her, I go, what do you think if we sold our house and pressed the reset button? Except now we have a lot more time than we have money. And she's like, well, we just moved in. This is we want this house. Like, it was a hard conversation. But I laid it down. I said, if we want to keep this business going, I have to get a loan for at least $300,000. That takes care of my truck. That takes care of the trailer to support the equipment I'm going to need and the actual equipment. So that means we had to start negative $300,000. And at that point, I'm back to the J-Dog years, man. I'm back to working 24/7, owner-operator style. And I didn't want to do that. So, I had to take one on the chin. But it was either take out a fuck ton of cash loan or gain all my time back and just restructure my life and figure out, what do I really want to do? Even if it doesn't mean demolition, what do I really want? And I want to be with my family whenever I want. If we want to go to Florida, we want to go to Colorado, or hell, if I just want to stay home for 4, 5, 6 days, that's what I want. So that's what I got, man.
And with that now, so you had you said hard, complicated, whatever word we want to say, conversation. And what it really comes down to is complicated. That was simple. It was, like you're using the time money equation, but it was also starting with the end state in mind. And having gone through it before with when you were at the franchise, you already knew what that looked like, right? That was that knowledge, experience, wisdom, whatever we want to call that, you gained along the way.
Absolutely.
And I know for me, I closed down a media company and also a rage room, and in both situations, this isn't fun anymore. And again, that's a weird metric, but it became great. It got to a point where it's like, it's work. The other thing with both those two companies that where the risk was that there was a lot of things within the business I wasn't able to do. So I was strictly relying on other people. And even now, as I get into new endeavors, hell, even what we've done with this podcast, And what I'm doing with my Experience Annie Weins live show, it's like I rely heavily on Taylor right now, the producer. And yet I also know that if push came to shove, I could figure it out. Like it's not beyond my skill set. Like with the Rage Room, for example, I ran the Rage Room a few weekends and I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be in the entertainment business. I wouldn't buy this product. Right. I say that like I like doing what the Rage Room does. I used to smash lots of stuff when I was angry, and I've broken many coffee cups. However, I wouldn't pay for that. Like when I do that, it's not a scheduled event. It's a go in the backyard and throw things against walls kind of event. Fine. And then with Antidote on my media company, I got stretched so thin that we had some video projects came up, and I'm like, I don't even know who to call. Like I was that far backwards. Like I had to call the guy to figure out who could maybe fulfill an obligation that I already had signed up for. And so for me, those were the two things. When it came to getting out of the franchise, it was the freedom aspect. When it got to the point where I no longer was in control of my own destiny, that's when it became problematic. And you touched on that a little bit, right? It's like your goal was freedom. And remember, when you're doing Worx, it's like those first couple of jobs came pretty easy for you and pretty simple. And yet, if you wanted to sustain, you needed $300,000 in
well, you remember
a loan.
I told you this. So during that project, also during the McDonald's project, I got offered a full-time position.
Yeah,
at a
landfill,
like a landscape material recycling place.
Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, and I was underqualified, but they saw what I did with the franchise, and they're like, "Hey, that qualifies you pretty much." It was 90K a year, free truck, the whole nine, man. It was great. Yeah. And I said no. I said, "Give me 7 weeks. I'm going to do this project. I'll get with you after." And I came home, and I remember I talked to my wife, and I asked her, "What do you think I should do?" And she goes, and I already talked to people in my life. I talked to you. I talked to my dad, my stepdad, which is funny because my stepdad and my dad actually told me, they didn't pretty much tell me to do it. They're like, they told me the benefits of doing it. Like, don't just say no to it. And even you said there was some benefit of working for a bigger company. And I still thought about it, considered it, talked to my wife, and we had agreed that's not what I wanted. I wanted that freedom. I didn't want someone else to be in control of my time, even at 90K a year. Yep. And dude, I'm going to tell you right now, the 6 months after that, holy shit, was I like, man, did I make the right decision? Did I make the right decision? Because in the cold months, demolition is not popping like in the spring, the summer, and the fall. So yeah, it got kind of, risky, but if you don't bet on yourself, then you'll never know your true potential. And that's what I did. I didn't gamble. I said, I know my potential. I know what I can do. I'm going all in on Casey Bubba Lawrence.
Yeah. No, and I like that you bring that in, right? Betting on yourself, because when you get into junk removal, especially as an independent, right, you're betting on yourself. And here's the deal. You talked about boundaries. You said the word boundaries earlier. The goal is set the boundaries early and often within your business. Define success so that when you do start to hit some metrics, you can say, what does success or failure look like? And when you're not sure, you can get a lot of those answers. People say, well, when do you should buy the second truck? And I'm like, $10,000 a month for 3 consecutive months, right? That is a starting point. Same token, also, right, when it comes to your family, if you say, hey, I'm going to get into this business, I'm going to put aside, $20,000. Here's the deal. If the goal was I will spend up to $20,000, and once I hit $20,001, I pull out and get a job, you got to set the parameter early. And you have to be honest with that parameter.
Absolutely.
Because what ends up happening is all of a sudden it becomes personal, it becomes emotional, there becomes resentment. And that's your business is dead way long before you close it. The question is how much time and money happens from when you realize it till when you stop putting effort into it. I know for me, like with the Rage Room, for example, my non-compete was up in March. And so I knew in like Q4 of the year before, I'm like, hey, I'm pretty much checking out of this thing after December. And also December was our heaviest month because people were out and about, whatever. And I just said, hey, if this thing isn't humming by the end of March, I'm gonna give it 90 days. And it's exactly what I did. because I knew I was going to be checked out. If it wasn't running on its own pretty much by that, I was done. And within 60 days, it's like, nope, this thing is not doing what it needs to do. It's actually going downhill. So I let all the employees know, hey, I'm closing the rage room. And it was like an instant decision. And the reason why it was really simple was because with Antidote, the media company I had, I knew that thing was done for all intents and purposes in like April of 21. And we officially launched in January of 21. Like we were 90, 120 days into that business. And I knew it was done. And I carried that thing on for almost a year after that. It was February. Wow. It was a February of the following year before it was like, okay, now we're.
Yeah, because I think I closed at like 9 or 10 months. Yeah. And I remember my goal was 150 the first year, and I was at like 140,000 for gross revenue.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I'm still not even breaking even. I'm about to, but it's crazy you say boundaries. I found this post real quick. Matt Fitch, you and I have talked about him. We kind of maybe want to see if he wants to come on the show, but he does a lot of marketing, lead generation for junk removal companies. And the other day he posted on Junk Removal Trash Talk, the Facebook group, and he was saying, while some of us are out partying tonight, there's a select few who are at home taking the calls, responding to emails, setting up 8 a.m. jobs for tomorrow, and strategizing about what more we can do. There's a reason why we're not all successful. I commented, respectfully, obviously, I said another way of looking at that could be those working all night lack delegation, processes, and boundaries within their business. I'm all for hard work, but I like my time and freedom more. With that being said, I put in the effort to replace myself at every role until I reach my goals. In this case, freedom and time with my family. So I said that because I want these people to see that, yeah, man, you can work your ass off to the bone. That's fine. And it's gonna take that. But what's your goal? How do you get there? You don't get there by doing that, right? You don't get there by spending your weekends and the nights that you could be with your family or at a football game for your son or daughter. You don't spend that working if you don't have to. So you have to create those boundaries early on.
No, and absolutely. So I'm Facebook friends with this cat. He would be a good guy to have on. And this is the other thing. Yeah. What you were saying with him, you didn't say he was wrong at any point.
No.
Right? It depends. It depends what your definition of success is. Actually, I've actually followed some of Matt Fitch stuff. I'm on his personal Facebook here. He's giving a shout out. It looks like his daughter or something, first day at new job. Also, this is a random thing I want to touch base on because I know this is near and dear to you and me. He posted 3 days ago. I want to celebrate this for him. He said, one Friday, 1,298 days ago, I almost died. Here's to 297 days of sobriety. Happy Friday. I will say, I don't talk about this often. I stopped drinking in March and I started focusing on my physical health. Ever since I started focusing on my physical health, my mental health has been better. And even now, okay, let's carry this forward. For the first 3-4 years of my business, all I did is talk about business. I ate, slept, and breathed my business. This weekend, with the exception of, I think 1 or 2 text messages on Saturday and about an hour, I'd say an hour collectively on Sunday, I was on and off my laptop getting set up for the week. That is what I put into my business, and none of it felt like work. Like I was excited to do the things to prep the battlefield for the weekend because I've learned to rest and digest. Like I watched the Packer game. My girlfriend took a nap. Great Sunday, right? And then proceeded to make dinner, watch 3 episodes of Game of Thrones. That was my Sunday.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Back on Game of Thrones. Hell yeah.
I started 2 weeks ago. I had never watched an episode until 2 weeks ago.
You're in for a ride. Get ready.
I'm like halfway. That's the thing. Here's also, we're going to get to thanks to a couple of Facebook users put up questions. We're going to get to them in a second here. Here's what I'll say about this. I avoided Game of Thrones, and I never watched The Sopranos. Sons of Anarchy is the only series, that in The Office, where I'm like, yep, front to back, and House. Those are the 3 I can say. Front to back, I've seen all the episodes. I avoid all that shit because you know what? I get sucked in like everybody else, and I have no discipline. Like last night at 11 o'clock, and after 2 episodes of Game of Thrones, I looked at her. I was like, hey, one more episode. And she's like, I'm going to fall asleep either way. Because she was basically sleeping as it was. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to watch another episode. Why? Because I have no discipline and I'm excited. And that's when they hooked you. Also, I almost never watch a series that isn't already like, if I can't binge watch it, I don't need that level of anxiety in my life. So I don't care that I'm 10 years late to the party. I remember people were binge watching Game of Thrones when I was in Gitmo 14 and 15.
Yeah.
I'm fine being 10 years late to the party. Completely fine. It's all new to me. All I know is Aaron Rodgers was the king of the North for years, and now I'm starting to see what the relevance is, bringing it back to the Green Bay football Packers.
Are you seeing these Facebook comments, and how come they're not saying the names on here, but I see it on Facebook if I go to the Facebook page.
Correct. So shout out. So yeah, because we are, that's a great question, Casey, as we're learning this technology together, because we're only broadcasting in our private Trash Talk VIP business owners group. We can't, I'll show it. If I pop it up, it only shows as Facebook user. So I have the other one open and I don't see it there either. I don't know. Can you see who made the comment?
Yeah, I can see the comments.
Here, let me mute the let's go comment from you.
So Jack Tonneson and then Jacob Castillo is the last one. So Jack Tonneson, the best and worst business decision you've made to date. And then Jacob is that I'm having trouble get off the truck. Do you recommend getting off completely or a slow transition?
Well, I'm gonna tell you this. Yeah, we'll field this one because best and worst. There's listen to every episode and you tell me what the best and worst is because there's been a lot of decisions that have been made. I mean here I'll make it real simple. Best decision I ever made. Yeah, best decision I ever made. See now Taylor's controlling. He goes jumping backward. Best decision starting business with my brother. Worst decision started a business with my brother. There you go. One answer, right? Because I love my brother, and he was the Casey knows him. He right. And I started business with my one brother, and my other brother joined us. If you put myself and my two brothers in a room, I'm the third best person at junk removal. Like they are that good tactically, and yet it soured the relationship we had as brothers. Some brothers figured out and make it happen. We did not. Our father owns a business. I own a business. My brother Isaac owns a business, and my brother Tyler doesn't really own a business and yet doesn't have a job because he figures out how to make money. So that's fine. We're all entrepreneurial. So it's pretty much the same decision. The other thing, when it comes to best and worst decisions, those are so individualistic.
Yeah.
So
we'll answer that later, Jack, because it's just too objective, there's way too much.
But here, this is a great question. I'm having trouble getting off the truck. Do you wear macaron completely? Getting out completely or slow transition. This is the simplest question ever. I'll go with option B, slow transition. This is get a second truck or second vehicle, go to jobs with your two guys, right? Because you're going to train your number one guy, your guy that's going to be your crew chief, team leader, whatever you want to call him, and the other junk removal specialist, helper, whatever, right? And what you need to do is go to that one trailer job, set them up, set the expectation and leave for an hour and come back and see, did they meet, exceed or not, or not meet the expectation you set out for them? And then one at a time. It is a slow transition. What you will fail.
Well, I wouldn't say it was too slow.
What's that?
I mean, it is a slow transition, but
it's not completely.
He also followed up. He said it's just him and two guys, but it seems like all the jobs that they're doing, it's all three of them. And that's kind of I like he said that because there's going to be some jobs you're going to find out having three guys is more efficient.
Yep.
Obviously, you don't want that to be a daily occurrence where every job takes three people, but that's a perfect time for you to back out of the situation.
Also,
are you have the people?
Correct. And here's why. You have two choices. Do you want to live in the present or the future? If you want to live in the present, three guys are going to bang the job out faster, right? The future says leave for an hour, go to a networking event, go to a couple of cold calls, right? I don't care. Drive around the block, drive 2 blocks away and get on the phone and shoot some emails out. And then come back and you got to show them in micro doses that you trust them, and it's trust and verify. And that's it. So it's all those little things, because there'll come a day then where you're like, hey, you're taking the truck, right? Or even a micro dose, when you go to the next job, have them talk to the customer and you be the junk removal specialist for that job, where they are 100% talking to the customer, deciding, what goes where in the truck, how are you going to load it, how are you going to stack it. So
that's how I train them. Yeah. I would 100%. Be their helper.
Yep. And then when you're their helper, what's nice is they don't have to think about, I have to tell this guy twist, turn, how to load the truck, right? And you got to be, I talk about this in my book, Words Fucking Matter, Retrain Your Brain to Use Language That Serves You, shout out. I talk about this in my book, right? Learn to be a great follower first. And then when you do that, you can be an even better leader. So if you got 3 guys right now and you trust one of them to run the truck and you trust the other guy with your customers enough where you let them in your own house, dude, you're now is the time for you to level up and take the risk, because you have to get people to replace you. This is no different than what you were talking about there, Casey, with the post with Matt. It's like you got to find a way to fire yourself. You being the lead guy in the truck doesn't allow your company to grow.
Yeah, and this is why I love that, whatever you want to call it, a saying or quote, whatever. But that strategy is solid because it goes over so many different small businesses. I literally was having this conversation 2 months ago with my wife in her business. I asked her what was the biggest thing holding her back. She said it was editing the actual photos. It takes so much time. So I said, let's hire an editor. And she said what everyone here says. Well, no one is as good as this as I am.
Yep.
So what's funny is every business owner in the world has probably said that at some point. But the coolest part about it is they're all wrong, because it's all about how you teach and what you show them. And sure enough, we hired an editor. He's badass. She trained him. She showed him her way of editing. Now that's one less thing she has to do. Same thing here. Like, yeah, you may not think people are going to be as good as you. Will they care as much? No. But you can show them. You can train them to at least the customer will perceive that they give a damn by how they present themselves and your business on your behalf. So you just have to show them, you have to train them the correct way. You have to implement processes and standards in your business like we talk about all the time.
Yep.
And yeah, is it going to be easy? No. But is it simple? Absolutely.
So I love that, right? So you're already picking up on my words, right? Easy is a bullshit word. Simple, great word. So I'm all about sayings, right? The next book I'm writing is the working title is Phrases to Win the Day. It might be like phrases fucking matter or sayings fucking matter, something like that. Right? We got a theme here. Also, it's going to be blue. I decided that blue is going to be the color, blue and white. And then the numbers fucking matter book is going to be green, and that's going to be the 6 steps or the 6 buckets of business. Right, there you go. Okay. Anyways, okay. So the saying that applies here, and I heard this from my coach. Shout out Mervyn Bird at Vistage. I have a habit of always giving shout outs to the people that I learn things from. And this is why. And I'll get to the quote here in a second. I'm going to go a little tangent dirt road action coming at you right now. Here's the deal. When I'm around people that quote books, inherently, I think they're smarter. Like, oh, I read this in Profit First, or I read this in From Good to Great, or I read this from Fuck to Focus. Shout out Donnie. He was on the podcast. Anyways, I always am like, oh, they got credibility because this wasn't an original thought. It's interesting how when someone doesn't have an original thought and they're quoting something else, I think they have more credibility. So that's interesting. The other thing is I take in a lot of my content that aren't books. I take in a lot of content from people I talk to and videos and all these other things. So when I shout out a person, to me, that's as credible as a book, because this is someone I had a conversation with and they said something so profound, I remembered it. And that conversation was just as, if not more beneficial than reading a book. So Mervyn Bird, this is what he told me when I was having this exact same struggle point, because the fact is nobody can run operations as well as me. However, you do not need Picasso to paint your fence. Can someone else answer the phone and talk? Absolutely. Can someone else schedule jobs? Absolutely. Will I schedule it like anally perfect? And yes. We don't need that to schedule a drunk movie.
Can someone drive a truck?
Yeah, exactly. Like my brother, the whole thing. Exactly. For example, my brother, if there was a job that had a really narrow driveway or really hazardous things, my brother could drive a truck better than anybody, including me. And I spent a year in Iraq driving a truck. However, 99% of our jobs, you got to be able to drive forward and back. Yeah. Right? You got to be able to back a truck and or trailer into a driveway. That's it. So you don't need Picasso to paint the fence. So to that point, if you got two guys who is that guy that Jacob. If you trust your two guys enough, or when you trust your guys enough to go in, talk to the customer, take care of the customer as well as you can, and as well as the company standard is, not even as well as you can, as well as the standard is, you got to give them some time. You got to give them some paces. Let's go back to our good friend Jordan Love of the 1-0 undefeated Green Bay football Packers, because it's a theme here, and my Green Bay Packers coffee mug, right? Because it's fresh on my mind because I watched the game, and of course I watch highlights and shit. Jordan Love sat behind Rodgers. There we go. Go Pack, go. Jordan Love sat behind Rodgers for 3 years, and with the exception of one game against Philadelphia that he came in relief, and another game he started, 2 games essentially in 3 years, he got no real meaningful reps. However, he got some reps. He got preseason reps. He got garbage time reps. He watched the master at work, and then he showed up. When it was his time to shine, he showed up. And that's what you need to do. You need to be the Aaron Rodgers to the Jordan Love. You got to give your guys simple reps. Maybe they don't do the whole job, but you let them do one aspect of it. Maybe they don't take the payment, but you let them talk to the customer through it while you process the credit card or whatever the most critical thing is. And then eventually you trust them with more and more and more stuff. You need to be teaching your guys every day. One of the questions I ask all of our guys every day when I see them towards the end of the day, what did you learn today? Because every day my expectation is they learn something and they retain it and they take it into tomorrow.
One thing. That's the requirement.
That's it. One. And when I have employees that say, "Oh man, no, same old," that already tells me they are not a growth-minded individual. I got Jerome. Jerome's been working for 6 years. Every time I ask him that question, "What'd you learn today?" he gives me an answer. Even if it's something like, "Oh yeah, man, I forgot this, and now got it, relearn." Fine.
Learn what not to do. Guess what? You'll learn something. To do.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like, hey, remember that job that went to shit because this happened? Well, yeah, we did the exact same thing and also went to shit this time. This time I'm acknowledging what control we had over it. So
going back to lunches, right? Because I love free lunches. But I met with a gentleman that I met at a whiskey club thing. I met with him for lunch today. He's a financial advisor, owns a couple businesses, whatever. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about how I'm in this commercial real estate groove, and I'm loving it, and it's hard, but I love it. I'm learning it. And I realized, and this is what he was saying, right now is a very tough time in real estate. As everyone probably knows, interest rates are through the roof. No one's buying, but it's the best time to learn at the hardest time, because let's just say in a couple of years, shit gets back down. It should be free sailing from then, right? It should be like, oh, wow, I'm so glad I went through the bullshit and the muddy times to enjoy these beautiful days. And it's the same thing here. Everything you do, if you're in a truck right now and it's just you and a guy, or if it's just you need to be writing it down. If you learn something new, oh, you know what? I learned to subtract 10 seconds off of this action going forward. Write it down, because that's what you're going to teach the guy replacing you. And that's how you become more efficient. If you want to become more profitable, I learned that if I do this instead of that, it saves me $10 on the back end. Or I can just add that $10 to the profit, then implement it, write it down. Now it's the new standard. And the one thing that Andy and I talk about all the time, these SOPs, why they're so important. Here's why. Because if you do want to grow your business and you do want it to be consistent, no matter how big you get, you can't do it without standard operating procedures. And the beauty about SOPs or the one thing that's really beautiful about it is, no matter who is doing it, as long as they know and practice the standard operating procedure, then you'll never have to work again, because now it's all being done for you. And now you can keep going up and up and up. Eventually, if you want this, someone can actually take over your business, run it for you, own it for you. And all you have to do is collect mailbox money, right? That's the goal, right? Just check your mailbox for that monthly check. Oh shit, looks like my business is doing pretty good. Cool. High five to them. But you can't get there if you don't trust anyone or you don't want to let go of shit. And I know it's the hardest part, but once you do that, it gets so much easier and so much simpler to actually let go of the day-to-day operations.
Yeah, and I'll use that. We're coming up on time here, and I'll use that as my top takeaway. Your job as a business owner is to ask the right questions and then write the SOPs. And over time, you write the SOPs, and then you eventually teach somebody else how to ask the best questions so they write the SOPs. And then once you write the SOPs, there's an SOP on how do we train, retrain, and reinforce the SOPs, right? It is this never ending. So that's my top takeaway from the day is if your goal is to get off the truck, your job is to ask good questions and write SOPs. Casey, what do you got for a top takeaway today?
My top takeaway is don't be afraid of changing your path. I'm not saying close down your business. No. But what I'm saying is don't fear it, right? Don't fear the fact that junk removal may not be the end game for you. Instead of fearing it, embrace it. Say, you know what? I want to give this much effort. And if at the end of that day, at the end of this number of jobs or this much money or whatever, if I still am not passionate about it, then I'm going to change my path. Because Andy told me one thing years ago. I don't know why I'm giving him credit for this, but it is what it is. He told me the franchise we were with was just a vehicle, right? It wasn't the end all be all. And this is back when we were, running and gunning the brand. And I looked at it like, holy shit, that's so right. It is just a vehicle. This isn't my promised land. This isn't what I want to be forever. This is just to get me to B or C in my life. If junk removal is a vehicle for you, that's great. Just maintain it and make it the best vehicle that there is to get you to the next one. That's my top takeaway.
I like it. All right. Another episode of Trash Talk Business Podcast, episode 76. Even as we've gone 70 plus episodes of this podcast and 20 plus years combined experience in this industry, we're still doing new things, learning new things, and attempting new things. Thank you for those that participated in this. We'd love to hear your feedback if you want to do more live episodes. Also, if there are dates and times where live episodes work best, this was definitely ad hoc today. We threw it together and made it happen. We will be looking to do live episodes monthly or quarterly, and we want to find a good time of day and day of week where we can get max participation, because that's what the live experience is all about. So thank you for those that participated. Thank you for Casey being on the podcast, Taylor, our producer. Shout out Jobber. Haven't mentioned Jobber at all today. Shout out Jobber. I'm Andy Weins. He's Casey Bubba Lawrence. We'll see you next week.